Lesson 5.3 on kite and trapezoid properties. Now we'll start with a quick review of kites from Lesson 1.5. A kite is a quadrilateral, four-sided figure with two distinct pairs of consecutive congruent sides. In this case, the congruent sides are actually joined together at a vertex, unlike the other quadrilaterals where the congruent sides are typically opposite each other. Now, in kites, there are particular vocabulary words for certain angles that we need to discuss. First, the vertex angles of a kite are the angles that are found where the consecutive sides meet, while the non-vertex angles are the angles that are joined between the non-congruent sides. Now, kites have particular properties that need to be analyzed. First, in a kite, the non-vertex angles are congruent. Second, the diagonals of a kite are perpendicular to each other. And third, the diagonals that connect the vertex angles bisect the other diagonal. And finally, the diagonal is the angle bisector of both vertex angles. These four properties are properties that kites inherit for being kites. Because a quadrilateral fits the definition of a kite, these four properties are then inherent to a kite. Now, a review of trapezoids from Lesson 1.5. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral, again, four-sided figure, with exactly one pair of parallel sides, and only one pair. If you actually have two pairs of parallel sides in a quadrilateral, then we have a parallelogram, and that's for another lesson. Now, there's a couple vocabulary words also that we need to discuss with trapezoids. The first one are the bases. The parallel sides in a trapezoid are referred to as the bases. And in addition, trapezoids have what are called base angles, the angles that are formed by the base. And there are actually two pairs of base angles in a trapezoid. Although when we refer to a pair of base angles, we cannot take one angle from the bottom base and the other angle from the top base. A pair of base angles must be shared by the same side of the trapezoid. In addition, there's a more specific type of trapezoid called an isosceles trapezoid. An isosceles trapezoid is a trapezoid with its non-parallel pair of sides congruent. For example, in this first trapezoid that has all the arrows pointing to it, if we were to say that the non-parallel sides were congruent, that would qualify as an isosceles trapezoid. While the trapezoid to the right, however, doesn't have that condition and therefore is not an isosceles trapezoid. Now, trapezoids also have properties that are inherent to a trapezoid. First, consecutive angles between the bases are supplementary. So, for example, the angles between the bases, like say angle 1 and 2, are supplementary. They add up to 180 degrees. Likewise, angle 3 and 4 together add up to 180 degrees. And that's a result of the bases being parallel to each other. But trapezoids themselves do not have many properties. In fact, they only have the one. The remaining properties actually belong to isosceles trapezoids. And a property of an isosceles trapezoid is that the base angles of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. That not only applies to the bottom pair of base angles, but also the top pair of base angles. And another property specific to isosceles trapezoids is that the diagonals of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. And thus concludes today's lesson.